You're on.
I'm on. You're on.
No, 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 no. You're on.
Uh, I'm on. First, second, or third?
Here we go again.
I know, I know. So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of Two and a Half Opinions. Yes, I know we always start off crazy, but hey, we're here for the fun of it. I'm Yishai,
I'm Frank. Remember, I'm the irreverent one.
and the not the Rebbe is gone on drill. He will be back probably the week after next, I think.
Yes, probably.
So, so we will attempt our darndest to cover his absence while providing our own tidbits of information in the process.
So you mean that we're going to do our best to confusticate and bother people?
Sounds about right, considering.
Ah, okay. I'm all for that.
So, how would we go about doing a brief, what do you say, 10 seconds, 20-second synopsis on
Well,
what
I
the
like
Torah
what I
portion
well,
is?
I like what Olive Beta said. Is this last portion in the book of Exodus? By the way, let me forget to say Hazak at the end. Is this last portion nothing more than a glorified IKEA building instruction set?
IKEA building instruction set would be a good title for this development, this form of the Torah portion, just because
Yeah,
of the
it's
way it feels. It's very
right. It is kind
instructive.
of strange, isn't it?
It's very instructive, very outline-ish, if you will. Outline-ish, is that even a word? No, it's
Why
very
are we talking about Linus?
not Linus, Line-ish. It's like
Oh, okay. I thought there was a blanket in there someplace. I don't know.
it's like Druish, but
Oi, oi. Oh,
but anyway,
oh,
but anyways,
oh, that one hurt.
it's like an outline as a best description. You hit it on the head for the cursory glance for those who are not cracking down hard on their studying. It's like, as you said, it's like an IKEA building manual.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is that we all believe that there's no idle word in Torah. Every word means something. Okay. Otherwise, God wouldn't have had it put there. So, what is it we draw forth from these instructions? Because, you know, the public, the world likes to say the devil's in the details. Uh, that may be okay for them. I like to say that God is in the details. By that, I mean God is in all of the details of your very existence and the next person's very existence, and so on and so forth. So, so it would be rational, I would think, to come to an understanding that even these construction blueprints, so to speak, of the Mishkan are extremely important. They show us that God is in the details, that He is in, the littlest things like, whether you feel good or bad today, whether you have a sniffle or a temperature. God cares. I mean, it may not seem like it because, we all get sick, we all get this, we all get that. Uh, you know, we all come from someplace going to someplace. Now whether that trip makes us rich or makes us poor, uh, God is still in the details. Do we choose God's details or do we choose the world's details? Is the only
Wait,
way I can sum that up to make a connection.
wait, are you meaning to tell me that Jonah's prayer in the belly of the fish was right? The whole subject of God being in the darkness, God being in the light. If I go down to Sheol, you're still there?
Yeah, yeah.
Say it ain't so. I mean, I've always heard
Okay, it ain't so. But that would be a lie.
I've always heard the concepts of hell and the devil and everything running places like Sheol, and God's not there, and it's like Jonah just made it sound like nope, God is there. God has the influence to do whatever he bloody well feels like. Pardon the
Well,
phrasing.
yeah, and the world has this idea brought on by certain religions that the devil's in charge of this world. Well, let me tell you something. That's complete and utter bullcrap. I would have said something else, but we're trying for a G rating in this place. Uh, because I normally would have said something else. it's 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 baloney. It's hogwash. God is in control of everything. So he's in control of whether you have free will, but if you decide to do something wrong or negative or against God, then you reap the cause of that. If you decide to do something good or positive or in God's will, you reap the cause of that. So therein, I can say that these instructions are important. They mean something. What they mean exactly, I'm going to have to say that that's up to some of the more scholarly people, because you have uh, Hebraisms, you have gematria, you have Zohar. You have a whole bunch of other stuff that brings to light different parts of the book and different paragraphs and different words. That's all well and good. I'm not a yeshiva student, which I wish I was, but I'm not. So it's up to you, the individual, you right there, to study and to learn. But remember, don't get sideways. Okay? Now here's me. I'm preaching now. Okay? The foundation is Torah. The foundation is bedrock. In order to go from bedrock to the high towers, you must use things like a plumb bob and a square. That's the only way that you know that you're following the right path and you're laying the brick upon brick or the stone upon stone so that your structure will stand. Remember, Yeshua said, an unwise man builds his house on sand. Weather comes and tears it down. A wise man builds his house on stone, on bedrock, where all the weather comes, and the waves crash, and the wind blows, and his house still stands. What that means is you must study and learn. Use those precepts of the Torah to place the next stone of your understanding or the next brick of your understanding in line with everything else so that the tower is tall and straight instead of, all wobbly looking constructed. So, all right, that's Frank done preaching.
So, then based on that fact, what are we going to do? What are we going to read tonight?
The same thing we read every night, Pinky. How to take over Torah.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Take over Torah. That just sounds a little dangerous.
No, it's not. Not really. It's studying Torah.
Wait, oh, as soon as you said that, it brought to mind a statement that take us down a rabbit trail. Let's just read. I think I think we're gonna read the Maftir portion because we are so all over this Torah portion that just kind of seems. Let's read the synopsis portion. The Maftir. What is meant behind this portion?
Okay. All right. So, are you ready to read?
I am ready.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bakar banu mikol ha'amim v'tan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah. Melech Naaman.
Amen. Maftir portion. Exodus chapter 40, verse 34 through 38, read from Chabad.org's English translation. And the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the Mishkan. Moses could not enter the tent of meeting because the cloud rested upon it, and the glory of the Lord filled the Mishkan. When the cloud rose up from over the Mishkan, the children of Israel set out in all their journeys. But if the cloud did not rise up, they did not set out until the day that it rose. For the cloud of the Lord was upon the Mishkan by day, and there was fire within it at night, before the eyes of the entire house of Israel in all their journeys.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah imet v'kayei olam natav yitukenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah. Melech Naaman. Hazak, Hazak, Vinet Hazek. Be strong, and be strengthened.
Amen. So, this Torah
Microphone.
portion, the microphone should be functioning. I don't know what you're hearing.
I'm hearing you, but it's very, very low. You're
Well,
very small. I'm squishing your head. I'm squishing your head.
you're squishing with flames. Flames? No, no. Now we're gonna start on tangents. Let's not do that. The stars are not in position for this type of tangent. Like he said, stars can't do it. Not today. But anyways, enough with the tangents. So this Torah portion is rather bizarre. It almost seems like, for at least on the cursory glances, we were saying before we read the Torah portion, or at least the Maftir portion, we said that it felt like, on a cursory glance, an IKEA building manual. And so essentially what we're going to have to do is nitpick the building instructions based on the understanding that we've been given here. Because throughout all of the portion, we find ourselves talking about how the tabernacle was constructed, where things were put, how many items were placed. But and all of this synopsizes at the very end, where the construction is there solely to allow a place for God to dwell with us, allow an area where we can come and actually actively meet with God. Not just the stereotypical, I'm going to get on my knees and pray. No, no, this is the level of interaction Israel had with God because of the Mishkan, was to the level of, I'm going to come to God with help, of course, because not a single one of them went forth with bold confidence. I'm going to go before God, bring my offering as to the reason why I'm coming to talk to God. My offering explains the reason why I'm here. And then from here, I will eat and drink with God, for the most part.
Okay. All right.
So,
So,
what's so significant about the individual constructions? What is it? What's in here? that brings to mind that there's got to be more to it than meets the black and white lines.
Oh, so you're going to delve into the white fire and the black fire, huh? Is that where you're going?
Didn't know there was white fire and black fire, but I guess you could say that.
Oh, no, 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 no. No, if you don't know what it is, then we'll go somewhere else. In short, the black fire is the ink on the page that kindles the fire of your imagination. The white fire is, and this is a very frank-eyed synopsis, okay? Not a biblical scholar. The white fire is what's in between the lines, that things are alluded to and things are, suggested, that fires the imagination or the spirit. Both
So,
fire the spirit, one in one way, one in another way.
so to use your to use your explanation, I'd probably say I'm playing with white fire at this juncture in time, considering just what I've seen. Because I would one direction I could be going right about now would be the whole subject of the creation of the not the coverings, but the walls, if you will. The walls. I need to find exactly. I mean, even parts of the robes were built in a similar fashion, but the walls, parts of the tabernacle were actually built in such odd ways. Like, for example, some of the areas were built with an interwoving of not only a mixture of linen and wool, but also an interwoving of color as well. It's a rather fascinating concept. Why the color? Why the choice of blue and purple and linen and
Don't forget the gold.
crimson and gold? But I do believe the gold was interwoven during the construction of the ephod. But still, it's the I'm rambling here. Let's see if we can get where I'm going with this. So
You're a rambling man.
yeah, I feel like it from time to time. So there have been many different studies. I've looked in multiple areas, people trying to analyze the individual words even so much. And they've all fascinated me. They've all intrigued me because we're all bread thieves in the end. And so the teachings of others do tend to intrigue me, but I did come across something that while that I would like to offer to everyone else as a possible hypothesis, if you will.
A hypotenuse?
Something like that. I mean, the not very many people have held strong to this point of view, or at least from what I've read, not very many have focused on it. So, but one of the 19th century old dead guys had a theory based on the wool, just based on the interwoving of wool and linen, because it's used in the construction of the walls and the outer walls. It's used, but it's not used for the covering. The covering has its own section, the Takash skins and everything else. That has its own separate part and separate purpose. The walls do tend to draw my attention based on this theory. So the understanding that I have come across is the suggestion that minus a few colors, obviously minus a few colors when you hear this, the purple, blue, red, and white of the four strands of cloth were interwoven and matched to the concept of the rainbow.
Okay.
Now, most people would be like, "What do you mean? What do you mean matching it to the color of the rainbow?" That's just it. The suggested theory is the interwoving of the colors is supposed to match that of the rainbow. Of course, minus green, minus yellow. But then again, though, in certain sections of the tabernacle, you do find yellow as a gold as your representation of yellow if you want yellow. But it does bring to mind something rather interesting, and I'm going to jump more on this theory based on this Torah portion, some less on more aspects of the Torah portion, just because I think this would be something interesting to discuss. The If we go back to the time of Noah, and we've been doing that a lot with Exodus, because we've seen so many similarities and semblances. If we go back to the time of Noah, after the flood, after everything was destroyed, and Noah and his family were on dry land, and everyone was released back onto the earth, God gave his God gave his blessings to Noah, and his he gave his covenant in the symbol of the rainbow. Now, based on that fact, many have said there are other reasons for the rainbow. I'm I find myself looking at it more like this. The rainbow is more of a standard, more of a banner, if you will.
A flag.
A flag. A flag would be perfect for this. And the reason why I say that is because the God essentially at the point of the end of the flood said to Noah and his family, "All right, this is now yours. Don't screw it up." Of course, he wasn't that mean about it. He said it in different wording, but I view it as it was one of those moments of, this is yours. I'm going to see what you do with it now. So in essence, and I would say that the rainbow would be a sort of flag for mankind. It is of the aspect that this is where God said, "All right, Earth is now yours. We'll still work together, but Earth is now yours. Don't don't destroy it."
Okay. Now, I want to clarify something. Jesse's not talking about the rainbow flag we see nowadays. Uh, by a banner or a flag or a standard, God promises the rainbow will be in the sky, that he'll see the rainbow and remember his covenant and not destroy the earth by a flood. That existed long before the modern day rainbow flag. Okay, so we're not talking about that. Just so you know.
Exactly. Exactly. We are not talking about that in the slightest. But if we take that under consideration, let's go back to that theory that the interwoving of color is a representation of the rainbow. And if we assume that the rainbow is essentially mankind's banner, mankind's flag, why would God request the flag of humanity to be placed on the out essentially out the the walls of the tabernacle? Why would he
The exterior walls of the tabernacle or the exterior walls of the court, or both.
I will have to look, but I am under the impression it's of both.
Okay.
I will need to double check. Let's see.
All right. So now, while you're doing that, there's also an understanding that the tabernacle is a picture of a man. Okay. The blue and purple and scarlet and linen interwoven is the blood vessels and the capillaries and the sinews and the bone. The ram skins dyed red represent the muscles. The Takash skin, which was a many-hued animal, uh, I know. Some say, "Oh, it's a badger skin." No, it's not a badger skin. It is a kosher animal that existed at that time. Now, it may still exist as something we call a tapir or maybe even a giraffe or something like that. Okay. True. I don't know, but I'm saying I don't think it's gone away. But multicolored could mean it had some white on it, it had some black on it, it had some red on it, some yellow, some brown, because after all, wouldn't that more represent God's interaction with humans? Okay. We don't have humans that are green. We don't have humans that are, you know, chartreuse or anything else. I mean, you have people who, may be yellow, red, brown, black, white, uh, in the world, different countries, whether it be North America or or Asia or South America or any place in Europe, but things like that. That's Africa. That's what I'm getting at. In my opinion, Frank's opinion. Remember, I'm the irreverent one. It would make much more sense that those colors of the Takash would be in line with all of the people of the world and not some mythical thing. If this truly is a representation of a body, which I believe it is. So, did you find anything?
Well, most of my encounters hint that the colors were used both both as the walls and as some of the garments for the priesthood, which makes it even more fascinating with this kind of theory that I'm running with. Because if you pause for a minute, why would it be not necessarily the covering, because we have the skins doing the covering, but the covering for the internal sections of the tabernacle? Why would God want to cover what would be a representation of the rainbow in why would he want to use that as the covering for the tabernacle? And the one thing that I quickly ran to is, how many times has God said to everyone, deal with deal with your troubles with man before you deal with your troubles with God? He has said it on multiple occasions, and I would have to spend a little bit of time looking up the other locations for proof text, if you will. But the I believe that this mindset, this theory of the mixing of the colors being a representation of the rainbow, being a perfect sign to mankind, using the banner using the banner of mankind to say, keep your problems there. You're coming to see me. Man's actions, man's opinions, man's problems stays on that side of this color. Stays on that side of this wall. If you choose to come to if you choose to come to God. Which kind of makes a bit of sense, because when you think about it, every situation in the past that usually involves a religious difference usually hinges, there we go, on the subject that God had made a personal connection with that individual. But the individual, and I'm saying individual because it's happened to almost everyone, I'm pretty sure. Almost everyone. There are a few exceptions. I'm pretty sure almost every individual has at one point said, "All right, I'm in this close relationship with God. I am this close to him. So what I have been given from him is the right way to do it. Everyone else is wrong. The world revolves around me. I know what's best," which is not the case.
Oh, really? You
It
do know what's best?
it wouldn't be the case. That's not what God wants. That causes strife and destruction.
True.
So he
Very true.
wants so he wants the opinions of individuals left at the door. If you're coming
Okay.
into my house to talk and have a meal with me, leave problems at the door. We'll discuss
Okay.
between you and
Then
me
where
as
do
we
we get this? All you are who are heavy laden, come to me, and I will, relieve your burdens.
you my mind just had a moment there, so you might have to.
Okay, it's Yeshua saying, all who are heavy laden. I think Yeshua said it. Yeah. Uh, all you are who are heavy laden, come to me and I will relieve your burdens. He's talking about God, not about just himself. So,
That's where I don't believe he's trying. If we are under the assumption that Yeshua understood Torah very effectively,
yep,
that's where I don't believe. That's where I believe he, in this situation, is not trying to say you your problems with this world, bring them to me and I'll fix them. I don't think that's what he's saying. That sounds something more like what I would hear from, pardon me for being insulting to them, a a um a pastor trying to ask for seed money.
right. Yeah. And I'm not trying to be flippant about it, but if someone says, bring your troubles to me and I will help you with them, doesn't mean that he's going to cure your troubles. Okay. Might mean he might help you find a way out of your troubles, or he might find a way for you to stand up underneath of your troubles and still prosper. So, it's not, oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? My friends all drive Porsches. I must make amends. It's not that. It is not that at all. It is about the Most High, blessed be He, being compassionate toward you. It is about you being compassionate toward God. So, with God being compassionate toward you and you being compassionate towards God, I think you would come to an understanding where He would help you stand up underneath of your troubles or help alleviate some of your problems. But He will help you prosper even in the midst of, you know, feast and famine. So, no?
No, I see what you're saying. I agree there.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
I couldn't hear you.
Well, I thought you had more. That's why I was staying quiet. No, no. I understand what you mean, and I believe that God would be that individual who would say, "You show me you can." He'd be the proper father, the kind of father that you would expect to be strict, but not just, but not punishing. So he would be strict, but he would be just. It's that mindset of, okay, this is what you want. This is what you really want. Okay, this is what we'll do. I know you're incapable of doing certain things here and there. So you do what you can. I'll do what and I'll help you out where I can. He's that kind of father who teaches the valuable lesson of supporting oneself and focusing on bettering oneself. He in every section of Torah I've always seen that. It's that mindset of I'm going to punish you now. You must understand why I'm punishing you. All right, now that I've punished you, let's get this right, shall we? This is my rules. You will abide by the rules. And I will help you if you do abide by the rules.
So, in essence, helping man to become a just co-creator with God.
Yes. It,
Okay.
the Torah the Torah has many rules and regulations, but I agree with the rabbis on the subject matter that the Torah it is through the Torah that you understand God. You understand what what would the mindset be of an all-powerful entity like God? What would be the drive? What would be the focus? What would he want out of his creation? And it is through this Torah portion and many other Torah portions in Exodus that we've seen what God wants, how God wants. And he's that kind of individual that would tell you this is what I want, this is how I want it done. You want to understand why it is this way? All right, look into my instructions so you better know me.
Okay. So it's it's a way to get to know God better by following his instructions and seeking the answer, the meaning of the instructions. Uh, God doesn't want us to be blind in faith. He doesn't want us to be rebellious either. But he doesn't want us to be, okay, God, you said so. I'm going to go do this. That's no, he doesn't want an automaton. He doesn't want a robot. He wants somebody who's going to strive with him, not strive against him, but strive with him. So if he's striving to help you understand, you should strive to help understand him. In that way, we are co-creators with God. And in that way, God helps us to understand. Now, I know. It sounds like, oh yeah, it sounds like a great answer. I'm still working on it myself. I'm still working on it myself. If I know anything, I know that God is just. I know that God is loving. I know that he's kind. He is long suffering. For crying out loud, to put up with a bunch of numbskulls like us down here, he's got to be long suffering. So take it for what it's worth. So back to our IKEA construction of the tabernacle.
Well, this does pose another question that does come to mind. Now, I don't know how much we will be able to get into this one given the time, but I it is a question that has probably been asked by quite a few people. So was the Mishkan an ideal choice? Was it the ideal first choice?
No,
Or was it
no,
after the fact?
it's after, because the garden was the first choice. The garden was the ideal choice.
That is true. What I'm getting at is when it comes to the children of Israel, the understanding is so let me reword that question better. Was the Mishkan what God wanted to create beforehand? Or was the Mishkan what God said, this is what you will build so I can dwell with you because you made a mistake with the golden calf?
Well, that depends upon where we understand the instructions for the Mishkan are given and where we understand the incident of the golden calf happened. Because the way it's laid out in the text, Moses goes up the mountain, receives word from God, God inscribes the tablets, and then all of a sudden God says, get down from here. Your people who you brought out, they have sinned a great sin. And then Moses says, don't destroy them. So he goes down, he sees them, he breaks the tablets, he grinds them up, grinds not the tablets, grinds the golden calf up, sprinkles it on the water, and has everybody drink from it. Thereby, in Frank's way of thinking, the law of the jealous husband causes those who actually did the dastardly deed in their heart and in their body to, their belly to swell and their thigh to rot. So that's how the Levites who strapped on a sword knew who to kill, the 3,000. Everybody else who was kind of half-hearted doing it, I think, is who God let the plague loose on. And everybody else was like, I didn't even know about it. I was out here on the outside of the camp. So I think the ideal was probably to build a meeting place. I don't know that. I don't know that the altar would have been required. I don't know that the labor would have been required. Maybe. Uh, it's difficult to tell what would have or what wouldn't have been required, because in the middle of this, in the middle of the instruction, Moses comes back down, the golden calf, and then Moses goes back up and asks for forgiveness and for another set of instructions. So it's difficult to tell. But God, being God, blessed be He, knew what was going to happen. He was just waiting for it to happen at its time. I mean, there was no way he could tell Moses, okay, go back down the mountain and stop these idiots from doing this. Because I think the people who were punished would have bided their time and tried it some other time. And they would have been far away from God and the mountain when they chose to do this, if they hadn't done it at the time of the golden calf. So I think the timing was important. And the timing was just right for God to reveal, these are the people you brought out of Egypt. I don't think he was saying the children of Israel necessarily. And I don't think he was saying all of the mixed multitude. I think he was saying these that have this evil inclination, you brought them out with everybody else. Now it's time to get rid of them. Cull the people that are with you. And that's what happened. The ones that were blatantly part of it, the Levites, killed 3,000 that day. The part that were not blatantly with it, or doing it, who were covert in their actions, God sent the plague, and they died. This was a way for the people and for Moses to see, look at this. This is what happened. You're the guys who killed her. You killed her. You need to die because you killed him. You murdered him. Not just kill, you murdered him. So I don't know. I can't make a judgment on which came first, the chicken or the egg. All I can say is that it happened at the right time so that God could show the people and show Moses who was there and how they actually felt about God and Moses.
It
So.
it is interesting that this is the train of thought, considering the fact that this topic here has been one of much debate among those who follow Rashi and those who follow the Rambam, because the primary belief, the primary 2 points of view was the Rambam believes it is it is that it is of the same layout that Torah has. God had planned for the Mishkan to be created. He wanted a home among them, sanctified for him. And the actual building of the Mishkan was delayed until they had been forgiven of their sin of the golden calf. It was still the intended target, the intended purpose, but it was only delayed because of the sin. While Rashi, on the other hand, does tend to give the opinion that it is because of the sacrifices why we needed the atonement through the Mishkan. It is because it is because of the golden calf is why the Mishkan was created, because without the sin of the golden calf we would not need the Mishkan. Because of the sin of the golden calf, certain details in the commandment to build the Mishkan were altered. At least that's what Rashi says.
And
So,
that kind of goes with my assumption that if they had not sinned, they might not have needed the main altar, because they wouldn't have had to offer certain sacrifices.
which I do understand is a probability. The one thing I've always questioned about it, and it's sort of where I find myself more in agreement with the Ramban on this one, is the understanding that if God knew that this was going to happen to begin with, if he knew that the sin of the golden calf was going to happen, but he left it as a situational awareness to what the children of Israel will do. Because I've always viewed that the whole mindset of God seeing the future and seeing the past and seeing what we're going to do is not a matter of him saying, we do you are going to do this and this other thing in your life, and then you're going to die, and this is going to be what's going to happen to you. No, I think it's more of, all right, little one, before you go onto that earth, here's the layout. You have different directions, different paths that you can take. I know what the outcome of all those paths are going to be. I can give you suggestions on directions to go, but ultimately it is your choice to pick which path. So I would be in agreement with the Rambam of the mindset of God gave the tabernacle the instructions of constructing the Mishkan with everything, but when Moses had to go down to deal with the golden calf situation, it wasn't a matter of God saying, all right, now we have to add extra things to it because they messed up. I see it more as, all right, let's see if we can get this right this time.
Ah,
This
okay.
is
Well,
and as I said, this is a thing of debate even with two of the more prominent rabbinical ways of thinking in Judaism. So us debating here and now is not a bad thing. It's actually, in fact, it reveals more to the rest of the world and anyone listening, primarily anyone listening, what the way how both we think and how Judaism as a whole will spend hours upon hours, upon days, weeks, months, years, just pouring over the Torah so that they can better understand why God gave it, what God gave, and what is the use for it for us.
Well, the thing is that not that we're any great Torah scholars, but what I find encouraging is we're thinking up some of the same questions that people like the Rambam and Rashi, thought up, and we're like, what about this? So we're not angels, we're not perfect, but we are striving to understand. And as your father said, I've said, you've said, read the text. If it causes you to question, find out why. Find out why that question pops up so that you can better understand it, so that you can, you know, comprehend more. Um, God gave the instructions, and he may have not had to have certain sacrifices. He may have only constructed the altar so that, um, you know, we could have given thanksgiving offerings or praise offerings or honor offerings or love for this person, love for that. It those types of things. All of the good intended types of things. And
Of
he
that,
made
of that I can understand, considering it's happened on multiple occasions. There are still sacrifices that were requested and required based on time of year, but until this point, we don't see much in the way of other sacrifices required.
right.
So I can understand that.
Yeah. And again, it's our opinion, folks. It's our opinion. The 2.5 people that are watching, right? Or do we have three? We have a full three people?
I think it's three. No, I'm not gonna look because in my mind, whether we have one, two, five, or half the nation, it's for me. It doesn't matter how many people are listening, so long as what we're saying is helping someone.
True. True. And
Help
we're
them
not
understand an opinion. Help them understand a point of view,
right. And we're not
especially a
trying
point
to
of view from us.
yeah, we're not trying to circumvent your understanding. We're saying that there's more out there to understand than when I started this. Okay. There's more out there to understand. And it is a way to get closer to God. Because if you read his book, if you read the Torah, what's commonly referred to as the 5 books of Moses, you start to gain a little bit of insight into how God thinks. Not necessarily what he thinks, but how he thinks. And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. The book of Genesis is all about the world and how the world does things. And the next 4 books are all about how to not do certain things that happen in Genesis, like marrying 2 sisters when they're both alive. Not a good idea. So it's not that he could have stopped Jacob, it's that he allowed Jacob to learn these lessons. They were tough lessons. They weren't easy. But I think Jacob was a better person for having learned them. I mean, anybody who's been a parent out there can look at your children and go, that boy or that girl just isn't going to learn until they burn their fingers on the stove. That boy or that girl just isn't going to learn until they try to swing a baseball bat at a hornet's nest. Some people's children, including God's children, that's us, have to just experience certain things in order to go, you know what? That wasn't such a good idea. So, I mean, come on, folks. There's nothing new under the sun.
So, with all of this, with 5 minutes remaining, how would we go about wrapping this up? We kind of threw a whole bunch. I truly get the feeling we shotgunned the crowd just because of what we did tonight. So how would we wrap this up so that it feels less like a shotgun and more precise?
Okay, so you want me to use a rifle instead next time?
No, 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 no. Just clean up the scatter.
Oh, okay. um, well, as happens many times, we get into a subject and something will pop up. Oh yeah, but wait a second. What about that over there? And yes, it becomes tangential. But I think that's a good thing because everybody in their train of thought might do the same thing. And if we go right past it, then they might miss something, or they might go, well, they went right past it. They weren't really talking about what I wanted to know. So good and bad in the way we do things, but in general, I think it was good. I mean, we have the instructions. As your dad likes to say, that these are, what was that? Chiastic structures. And that this is the closing bookend of Exodus, actually, of maybe the last few portions. And that's good because we know that there is a beginning, a middle, and an end. And sometimes several times inside of any particular book. So I I don't have a problem with what we covered and how we covered it.
Oh no, 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 no. You missed my statement. I'm actually trying to get to we're near the end, so let's sum up. Let's let's
And that's what I
clarify.
was and that's what I was trying to do. By saying I don't have a problem with the way we did it, I honestly mean you need to come from the beginning going toward the end. And when you find something that makes sense, you need to scratch that down and go, oh, okay, wait a second. This here. I got that part. Let me go look for another part. You build your own puzzle. And I think that's what I'm trying to say in the summation of this portion. You build your own puzzle. You find your own pieces. You write them down. You memorize them, whatever. Because it is like a puzzle. And trust me, God's not the kind of being that would give you 999 pieces out of 1,000 and that little 1,000th piece is missing, like some puzzle boxes have. Darn it. So, no, God gives you all the information you need. It's right there. Read and study, you know. I mean study more than just what's written in the Torah. Study, Rashi, study the Talmud, study Zohar. If you're old enough to study Zohar.
A good point to your statement of study the Talmud, study Rashi. I know there are multiple people out there who cringe at the word Talmud, who cringe at the word Zohar, who especially cringe at the word uh, Kabbalah. But
Well,
well, regardless, what I'm trying to get at is a good way to present this would be, do not hesitate to at the very least read the understanding of those who have read this and studied this long before you existed. Take the time to
exactly.
see. what they gleaned out of it, so that you can better your knowledge as to what you glean out of it.
Exactly, because the people we're talking about, Rambam, Rashi, the Talmudists, the people, the guy who wrote the Zohar, even Kabbalah, okay, they have studied Torah for a lifetime. Where else can you pick up that experience but to read their writings and try to understand what they're getting at? Don't latch on to the absurd, okay? Latch on to a logical meaning. Latch on to a naturalistic meaning. As Brad Scott likes to say, you know, it all started out as an agrarian society, so everything should be referenced to an agrarian society because that's what it was at the beginning. I don't have a problem with that. But find something that makes sense, not ridiculous, and then go from there. Remember, use a plumb bob, use a square, build on bedrock so that the walls will go straight up and they won't fall down. That's all I can say.
And to expound on that, I could get my brief opinion, brief synopsis would probably be sometimes sometimes Torah is straightforward. Other times it's very vague. In your endeavors to study and understand why God is and what he is and how he chooses to do things, don't fear, as Frank was saying, but I'm going to say it in a different wording. Don't fear to go to the geologist to find that spot to dig. As I've heard used in a song so many years ago from those who know the artist Mattis Yahoo, he he had in his song, it said, "In the earth there are many wonderful treasures, and if you know where to dig, you'll find gold and diamonds. But if you don't know where to dig, all you'll find is rocks and dirt." And I'm going to change his wording just slightly. A teacher, because he says a rabbi in the song, but a teacher is a geologist of the soul. They can show you where to dig and what to dig for, but the digging you must do yourself.
True. But rabbi only means teacher.
Hence why I used the word teacher, as I knew people would understand what I was getting at. A
True.
teacher, a religious teacher, a teacher of Torah. There you
Right.
go.
But it has to be, now, I think I ought to caution some. Okay. It has to be a teacher who's not looking to profit off of you.
It should not be a Rabbi Joe Kapara.
Say that again?
Another song reference. Kobe O's did a song called Joe Capara, where the song is solely about the concept of religious individuals using what they have to be treated as a business.
Ah, perfect. Perfect. Okay. All right. So as we're coming to an end here, I I honestly think you just need to look at the pieces and find out how they go together. Look at God's blueprint and follow it. Don't fear to go to some of the rabbis, the ancient rabbis, the sages, or as Chris likes to say sometimes, the old dead guys,
Yo, that guy's
and look at what they're saying. You don't latch on to the absurd. Reason. God gave you a brain. Find out how to use it. Plain and simple. So,
And with that, this has been Two and a Half Opinions. We thank you for listening in to our chaotic ways of thinking.
right.
We invite you to come back next time. I'm Yishai.
I'm Frank, the irreverent one.
And the Not the Rebbe will be back later.
Yes, yes.
You all have a
So,
great weekend and a great night.
right. Shavua
Shavua
Tov,
Tov.
Lila Tov, Lehitrot, and enjoy the rest of your Sabbath. And if you're already into the first day, take a break. All right. 2.5 Opinions signing off.